I mean, when Rashmi talked, I'm sorry she had to leave. When Rashmi talked, she said there's 15% of children in India suffering of anxiety. I went and I had a look, and it's interesting. And because I'm from Germany too, like Matt, and we have a very strict school system, but interestingly enough, well, I didn't get the figures for Germany, but in Europe, the anxiety level within students is 5.4%. And in the USA, between 13 and 18, 31% of children suffer from anxiety in the USA. So it's massive, massive figures. And that's why I think this conversation is so important. There was a lot of questions I think everybody had, and I want to open the floor as well in a while for everybody who had a question for Takiti or Stephen and didn't come around to ask them to do so. The first question I really have, and is how much, because just even thinking what we talked before in the first session, how much do you believe when it comes to the children and the systems, is it not only the systems, what we're used to, the status quo, the way it has developed over the last 200 years schooling, how much have we as adults still anxiety in us and give them on to the children? The reason why I'm asking you that about stress is the amount of people I know, adults, who admitted to me lately that they still have nightmares of having to write an exam in school. They actually wake up at 50 years old and still had a dream of sitting in an exam, not being able to think about anything and failing. So how much do you think we give that fear on also to the children? How much do we add to it?
I think, can I say? We are allowed to say, right? I think we are the only one who gives the fear to children. They are born with nothing, neither fear nor the brave thing. We only give them fear 100%. This is I'm saying because when my daughter was 6 years old in grade 1, they had an exam because of some changes in the education. So the teachers called us, all the parents, to motivate the parents for the exam. And the only thing that they said is, you guys relax, you don't get stressed, your child will automatically perform well. And when we relaxed after the session, we didn't pass on any fear to the children and they were able to do well. So the first thing they were saying to parents was this only, that you relax. So I think it's 100% that we pass on the fear initially. Later on, as the child grew up, of course, it will be from the peer pressure. Initially, it's the parent who. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Usha. Lucia?
Yeah. Isn't it, oh, sorry. Isn't it in Sweden that they don't have exams? Or Finland? I believe.
Finland.
Yeah. So yeah, Lucia, do you want to?
Yeah, so it's not a question, but maybe it's gonna help someone, and it helps me a lot. So when I was a child, obviously my parents didn't explain me why, but what they was doing with me was, they never allowed me to study the day before the exam. And so I never understood why. So first of all, they built a habit in me to never leave anything for the last moment, but to be prepared beforehand. Because even if I was kind of arguing with them and was like, yeah, but every minute is precious, so I have to really sit down. They said, no, you have to leave, call some of your friends and just go out and play. And so now years later, actually, I see it and I understood that they didn't want me to worry about it. So what I was saying as a explanation was, let the information sink in. And I don't think so this was the this was the point, because the information is going to sink in. Where exactly is going to sink in? But it was more for me to be more calm, to be more motivated, to have to take my mind away from, you know, from the stress and from the expectation. And so I see that if they're not allowing me to study until the last moment and kind of kill myself all night, reading the books and everything, that's mean probably their expectations are not so high on me in a way. So maybe it will be okay if I fail, if they let me go and play. So it's have a couple of different things which I can consider now as an adult. First of all, they didn't put pressure on me because there's no expectations. Because if there was expectations, they will tell me, okay, so it's the last day before, let me check on you where you are at, or are you sure you didn't miss anything? Nothing of this. Just go out and play and let the information sink in. So the next day, actually, when I have to go for the exam, I was completely calm most of the time, you know, jumping up and down, but mostly calm. And I think so it took a lot of pressure of me. So I think it's a great tip for someone who, you know, who never thought of this. Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you, Lucia. And it makes sense, because if you study the night before, first of all, you're tired, so you don't function proper that day of the exam anyway. Takeda, I'd love to hear from you, because what was the difference between when your kids were in school and, say, exams came up and the stress level, and then being at home, being homeschooled?
Well, one thing that we practice during tests is pump up time. It was like pump up time. We pump up, like really like kind of like Lucia. And they would just pump up. We'll pump up and get excited. You could do it. You could do it. You could do it. Yeah, I know you can do it. You know, just pump up time. Whereas the stress and anxiety become excitement. So it was more like an excitement for the test as opposed to I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. You know, so it was like, and then it even came to the point where my daughter was like, "Mom, you should do this at the school." So I even did it at the school and got the whole school pumped up to get ready to take the test. Because sometimes when you take that anxiety from taking the test to I could take the test and I could pass the test without the anxiety there, because it's all about the things that you learn from beginning. It takes a lot of stress off of it. Another thing that we used to do was 4 o'clock in the morning, we would go for a walk every day before they went to school. We'll go for a walk, we'll read a scripture, and we'll pray. So it was kind of like they didn't go to school anxious. And it's funny because my daughter, she is like so phenomenal as a mom, because what she said to me, like really like, I thought about it, and she was like, I try my best to send my kids to school stressless. Like, even though they do certain things to get on her nerve before they go to school, she try her best to stay as calm as possible so they can have a great day. I pray with them, and we just tell them, have a great day, and we reward them at the end of the week when they have great reports, because those kind of, when they seek a reward, and a lot of people say, you shouldn't. Yes, you should. You should reward children who work hard. You should, because then that gives them the motivation to go to school, take the stress off of them, but at the same time, give them a different kind, because think about what Steve just said, it gives them a different kind of stress. They're going to have stress. They're going to have anxiety. So how do you make the anxiety excited anxiety? You give them the excitement that they are going to do this. I'm going to do this. You know, you give them that motivating push. So it's fun. Nobody wants to do nothing that's not fun. So you make everything as fun as possible, because we know that kids like to do what 80% of the time? Play. So you have to make anything that they do a pleasurable experience, but at the same time experience some pain. Just like riding a bike. You're gonna fall, but does that stop you from wanting to ride that bike? Because once you ride that bike, you're gonna flow with it. You're going to continue to ride it. Just like when you read, you don't know how to read until you learn how to read. But how do you go from reading to comprehending what you read? How do you go from reading to comprehending what you read to utilizing critical thinking from the comprehension that you're reading? So it's all about how do you dissect what you read? So it's all about taking the anxiety out of it and making it an excitement. And I think about that all the time. Whatever I do with my grandkids, whatever I did with my children, we used to sing songs about everything. That's about the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. Dude, everything was a song. Everything was something fun. So when you teaching them with fun and things like that, it really does. It takes away the anxiety, the bad anxiety. It makes it something like I could do this, you know.
I love this, Takiti, because our Stephen said we need a certain amount of stress, otherwise we don't get motivated. And it makes sense, because when we still lived in the caves, if we wouldn't have anxiety, fear of future, that we starve in winter when it's snowing and it's cold, we wouldn't have gone out gathering firewood and food to survive. And that's where motivation comes from. A little bit, and they call it actually good stress, is called eustress. Eustress is there to actually make us motivated, and to change that into fun and an experience we like, changes the perspective. And if you think how the school system works, right, the kids have to sit at a desk while in Germany it was 7:30 in the morning, right? Listen to an adult talk and talk and talk and talk. We adults wouldn't do it, because we said you would say we can't listen that long. I mean, in the corporate world, we say you can't have a meeting that long because people will stop listening. But we expect our children to do it, right? Sharon, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I didn't send my kids to school. They could go if they wanted. And they basically, I called it passion learning. And when they had a passion, they drove me, you know, can I go tag birds? Can I go to the museum and get a book on Latin? Can I go to the library and order this? And as long as we were following their passion, they picked up the reading. They learned the math for things. They cooked, they baked. I have 7 daughters. They have anything from a heavy equipment license to and they built airports, to going to the Bahamas and banding birds at 15, and getting on equestrian teams to tend horse hooves, and sailing on sailing ships as whale watching. And they followed their passions, and there's so many good things out there. And then when they wanted to go to school, they went to school. And, you know, and they did not, we need to educate the education system that we need them there, both as facilitators and basically maybe only as facilitators. But I do believe the hypnosis thing comes in good, because if we could provide this hypnosis type of stuff for the people who cannot grasp this or will not grasp this, the hypnosis thing going into song and whatever does give that foundation for your ABCs and your math, and your, you know, rote learning is basically a bit of hypnosis. So there's room for both. But if we could actually make, my kids keep on saying it's really hard to educate the education system, and because they want structure, what they don't realize is structure is actually canning these kids. And right now there are so many people, so many connections that we need to make. Like Berkeley, California has free lessons, and you could sit in on so many ideal lessons and opportunities. But yet, because we're protecting some corporate or copyright or something, we're sacrificing our kids for it. And I don't know why. Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much, Sharon. I have a question. If we have 3 people here who homeschool, Matt, Sharon, and Takwiti, and we have Sarah who is homeschooling. My question really to the panel is, if you have parents out there who actually are thinking about it because they think, you know, homeschooling would be better for my children, they don't really get on in school, what are the things to look out for? There's a lot of positives that came out, but is there anything parents should know before they start the homeschooling is there anything you would say, look out for this, and this is difficulties who are arising? What would you tell them?
I actually would tell them to look for a female-based setting. Like we used to have 3 generational homes. We now have just little castles, each individual little castle. What I found was my village actually took in and taught my kids, but it was mostly the women, the baking or the going down to things they needed for gardening or tour guiding. They seem to have to make the room, whereas the guys, unless you're pushing or pulling or doing something that needed a timetable, we didn't have the guarantee that it was going to be anything other than labor, like free labor. But no, I shouldn't say that. The university kids that came in and sat down at the tables, that was great. But basically, it's a completely different, the structure of society now is for production of something. And the aim seems to be for everybody to have their individual castle or their individual, getting up there to be the millionaire. But it doesn't seem to have any connection to this has a connection, but it doesn't seem to have any connection to what's behind us, what we're growing, what we have a responsibility to. It's where we're going, but not where we came from, and not where we're what can we pass on for free, like not for profit, for the profit of having smart kids, and for the profit of having caring kids, and for the profit of, they don't seem to see, or I don't see a lot of the school stuff seems to be somebody's making money off the curriculum, somebody's making money off the salaries, somebody's making, but what are we putting out there for a product of what the world's getting from these kids we're setting out there, and what are they getting to be healthy enough to be doing it for a healthy reason, not just a competitive dog eat dog reason, so yeah, that was my, but I really owe a lot to the village for bringing up my kids. And I think it's because they were girls, maybe it was more girl based, maybe if they're boys it would be more boy based, but that's my experience.
Thank you, Sharon. Takriti.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right. One of the things that you want to look out for is your children's communication base and their anxiety level when they come home. Because when you homeschooling, what makes you homeschool is your children. You pay attention to your children. That's the first and foremost thing. You pay attention to them. Then guess what else you do? You talk to your children. That's another thing you do. You talk to them. You find out what's going on at the school, what makes them comfortable, what makes them uncomfortable. The next thing is you want to get to know the teachers in the school. The next thing you do is get to know the school district. What is it called? The school district. The person that's over the school district. I forgot the name of it. The superintendent of the school district. Yeah. So you get to know the superintendent of the school district. So by then you are very close with the school system. You're well implanted in the school system. So by doing that, you understand the curriculum. You look at the curriculum. You ask the school, the district, you ask the district for their curriculum for each school. They have that. That's public record. You look at the curriculum. The next thing is you join the Parent Volunteer Association that's affiliated with the school system. Once you find out where your children are, what the school system is, you ask yourself this question. Ask yourself these questions, and you might want to write this down. Can I homeschool? That's the number one question. Can I homeschool my children? Everybody cannot do it. 2, does my child qualify for homeschool? Because I have one of my children that did not do homeschool. She did school all the way through high school. She did public school. Do my child qualify for homeschooling? The next one is, do I have the proper resources to homeschool my child? And number 4, can I get the help I need to create a homeschool curriculum for my child or my children? Number 5, join a homeschool association. Very important. Join a homeschool association, not just your homeschool. I mean, there's a community of us out here. We are worldwide. We have a worldwide homeschool association for mothers. It's not just me that's a homeschooler. It's so many of us, and we are a group on Facebook. There's many homeschool groups on Facebook. There's many things. So those are my 5. So that's how you understand and find. Those are the questions that you ask yourself.
Thank you very much, Takeda. Stephen.
I love this discussion. I'd like to actually go back to what Lucia shared earlier and kind of work the way through. So, she mentioned that her parents discouraged her from taking and studying the night before the test and even the morning of the test. And that's actually a well-known method to reduce stress and actually increase your recall for information. Because whatever happens, if you have the information and you sleep, it tends to be implanted and give you greater recall to that. So it moves it from short-term to long-term memory. So that's the idea, is that that's actually something that's included in some of the hypnotherapy scripts, is that suggestion to not study the night of or the morning of. So I found it interesting that she shared that. And along with the stress and the different things that we were talking about earlier, there's this chemistry, right? So it's a self-fulfilling, self-feeding loop, where if you have this chemistry in your body, something will happen. It'll generate a thought. That thought will spark this connection to a feeling. Now, okay, you have this chemistry of the cortisol, the stress hormone, all that stuff in your body. But what's interesting is now you've got recollection of the thing that you're worrying about, maybe the stressful event, the future planning, the catastrophization, all of these different things. So that will then reinforce that chemistry. So when you have that cortisol in your body, it actually makes it so that you're less worried about what you know. It does a couple interesting things. It shuts down your immune system. It shuts down your digestion system. I mean, what does it matter what you're going to eat or digest when you're going to be eaten by the bear, right? It's like, and you don't have to worry about that so much. So it's interesting that all of that is there. And so thought is the same thing. We don't have recollection because you are very instantaneously focused. When you're under stress, it's about heart rate. It's about being in this moment, finding out looking for movement, and then finding out what's going to be the next step. So with all these different things, lowering that focus and just giving yourself time to let that feeling dissipate, not to fight against it, because I do believe that the energy that stress has over you is self-imposed. That the more that you try to resist it, the more energy it'll actually have over you, and then the stronger it'll appear. But if you just allow it to be, it's kind of like that mindfulness exercise. If you allow it to be and you just let it dissipate, like not thinking any major thoughts or worrying too much and just letting that go, then it'll give yourself a chance to move into a more normal state. And then when we're talking about homeschooling, so I mentioned that I set up a homeschool within my state, Edge Academy. because I had to, the schools would not take my daughter midterm. And I thought, well, she was farther advanced. I mean, she actually had taken many other classes. She moved from one state to another, so she had everything that she needed, but she was missing just one requirement from the state. So it allowed us to not only homeschool her, but I was homeschooling her in high school. In the state that I was in, the local community college gave free dual enrollment, which meant they offered free college level classes to qualifying students with zero tuition. So you could actually take as dual enrollment. So you would get high school credit and college credit. And she took 3 classes or 4 classes. She ended up taking it was a wonderful opportunity to learn. So there are some real benefits there. The second thing is that we were told that the colleges actually looked for kids that were homeschooled because they had a wider base of self-actualization, and that they could actually study, and they were better suited for some of the education requirements of the autonomy of college. So some of those fears that people have of socialization, of will my child study, it's just like coaching. All of that work is put back on the student, and it really allows the student to develop beyond what they would normally do. So they can become creative in what they learn. They're actually learning at their own pace. They're learning the things that they enjoy, and they're focusing in on finding out what's beneficial. As a homeschooling parent, I can share some things that are things not to do. I thought that to get my child ready for college, that I should load up the academic load on her. Wasn't a good idea. So really, it's about paying attention to your child. It's about talking to them, and it's difficult because at that age, the younger age, they're looking for independence. They're looking for a little bit of autonomy. So even with like my little 4-year-old grandson or 5-year-old grandson, one of the things that we can do when we're looking at studying and learning is to, just like was mentioned here, making it a game. It's something that we do on a lot of things, is gamifying the tasks that we have at hand. But this is where the hypnotherapy comes in. It's beneficial. It allows you to not be afraid of showing up as a beginner mind, right? So it's like with the stage hypnotherapy, you have all these different things that people do because they've removed that inhibition of them acting silly or doing something, which is all done, willfully. People choose to do that. The idea is that it removes that stigma of feeling like you're not good enough, removing that stigma of self-judgment, and allows you to go back into that early learning state where you're not only better suited to take information in, but you're really focused on what it is that you're trying to do and less worried about how you're being judged and all those other things. So I really do think homeschooling is a wonderful it's a wonderful opportunity for the people that either don't have the school that's right for their kids, right? It's paying attention to their kids. It's finding out what their child needs. If their child is either farther advanced or possibly needs some special considerations, whatever, just look and see if it's something that might work for you, and then find the support of the people that have done it before.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Just so many questions come up, just what you said, but it's not about me, so I won't ask my questions for the moment. What I'm going to do, first of all, is reading out Master Ann's comment. An important suicidal delusion about schooling exams is that parents and school teachers unfortunately expect or pressure children to prepare excessively, which is interesting, but you just said, Steve, about the mistake you made in the end, which sadly mostly results in reducing the child's ability to hold in the knowledge to pass exam. Thus, lacking perspective in schooling mentors' character is that they must not demand children to adopt a culture of overthinking, because one of adults' essential survival skills is that humans also need to learn how to recall their learned knowledge spontaneously. For example, not refreshing part of the exam knowledge within 12 to 24 hours prior to exam time, because this will enhance children's fast recalling memory skills. And doing this will also make children's sponge-like brains become too much overloaded with thinking and social pressures from the mentors. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful, because that's literally sums up what we're just talking about and the experiences even Lucia had and everyone. Matt, you were next, and I'd love to hear from you, because we just talked about countries where homeschooling is allowed. To clarify it for everyone in America, in Germany, you cannot homeschool, full stop. If you do, you go to prison.
And I want to expand that. It's not only Germany, it's most European countries, right? There are just Ireland, at the moment, the UK, Portugal, and Finland, where homeschooling is actually allowed by law. And in most of the countries, it is prohibited. And yes, as Gabi just said, in Germany, you go to prison. In Sweden, it's very strict. And what I heard from Kane actually said that even in the UK, they are thinking about removing the right to homeschool and making school mandatory. So I love to hear from Sharon, Takriti, and Stephen how it works in North America. And that's why I want to really push every button and do what I want, that I can move to Canada in 2 years. But at the moment, we are here in Europe, and we have to deal with the system. And that's the thing. And touching on Gabi's question, what can we say to parents who want to homeschool? And that's actually, like in countries like Germany, you have to make much bigger decisions when you want to homeschool than in America, right? Because you might have to leave your home country. You have to move to another country where it is allowed to homeschool. And what happens in Germany is that a lot of parents start to go another way. They try to put mental health labels on their kids. So my kid has Asperger, or my kid has ADHD, or my kid has this and that, so that I can get like a prescription or something from a doctor which says my kid is not able to go to school. And they try to push their kid into a box where it doesn't belong, because it's a normal kid, right? And that's a very dangerous development in like countries like Europe or France as well. So, and looking at this, we have to make much tougher decisions than, and I fully agree what Takriti said, and I fully agree with the 5 steps she said. Yes, but there is another one, and you have to look at, where do I want to do that, right? So what decisions do I have to make that happen for my kids? And this is what happened to my family. So we had to sell everything. We had to leave the country. And now we're in Portugal, and just in Portugal on hold until Sarah is done with her high school, so that we can move to another country where we actually want to live. We are not in Portugal because we want to live here. We are in Portugal because my daughter can have her high school here, right? And that's a completely different angle, a completely different view on homeschooling or on home education than you guys over in the US have, or in Canada, or in other countries. I mean, in South Africa it's allowed, and in India I suppose it's also allowed. But yeah, there are many countries where it's prohibited by law.
Thank you very much, Matt. Actually, Sharon was in before Lucia. She's does it to me. You go ahead, and then it's Lucia, and then Sarah.
Okay, I want to tell you, I didn't ask. I didn't ask to homeschool my kids. I just said didn't like school myself. I'm not sending my kids. And then they said, oh, well, you're going to have to. And then every once in a while they'd send somebody up and they'd say, where's your curriculum? And I'd say, what are you hunting for? I did download their outcomes, what they wanted for each year. And so I knew what they were. But when they'd say, how good is your kid at math at this level? Well, I had them tending a cash register, and they sold their own plants, and they made their own, they did their own, earned their own money. They brought up their own animals, and I put down, this was their curriculum. And I would take apart what they did in their passions and make it curriculum. And as long as I took apart what they were teaching themselves, it always worked. So then Kara was 15. She said, I'm not going to wait to go to university. So she went and challenged to go to university, and they let her in because university didn't care about the exams. And I have a picture I'd love to show you. I don't know if it's legal to show you. I bought it from a 12-year-old kid who had never been to school a day in her life. And she said, I would love to go to university too, but I don't know. I have no credentials, never been to school in a day in my life. She was doing astrophysics. She was interested in she always set up, they came here in the summers and they'd set up to watch the night sky. And I said, take your pictures, take your paintings and put your age on them and take them to the university and show them. Because if they can see what intense amount of passion you put into these and the ability to stick with it, to learn how to paint like this, then they will have to acknowledge that you are a knowing person who will apply themselves. And she said, I don't think that will work. I have nothing. I don't have grade 1. And I said, take it, just try it. All you can do is say no. They took her in. You know what she's doing today? She's a teacher in a school.
Now you have to show us the picture.
Okay. She did at 12, and I bought it for her, from her. Can you see it?
No, you disappeared altogether.
Oh, frig. Hang on a sec. How do I do that? I take the background off, don't I? Just a minute. Do I take a none?
Oh, wow.
She did this at 12 years old. It's the sheds that are down by our shoreline.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Absolutely beautiful.
It's one of 8. She did 8 of them, and I plan to eventually get the whole
That
set.
would make a wonderful, all that blue in the sky, that would make a wonderful puzzle.
Oh yeah, that would be a terrible puzzle. But yeah, I'm now in San Francisco. Hang on a sec. I got to go back home.
Okie dokie. Lucia. My Shan.
See ya.
I don't know. Someone just mentioned something, it just came to my mind, so I don't remember who was it. But the conversation was about the homeschooling. And so for those people who, I'm not very aware of it, but for example, I work with, supporting adults getting back to work, changing their career path and so on. There is safeguarding policies. And so when I have to support someone going to a teacher position, there is, very deep DBS check here in UK, where you have to, go through, if you are allowed, to work with children and so on. And so what I'm thinking is, if the system, I agree that certain countries is forbidden, they don't allow kids to be taught at school, at home. But the one thing is, those old teachers, they have trainings for, in terms of safeguarding policies and observing the kids if they've got any unusual signs of, physical abuse or mental abuse, which is very important. We have to agree that not every family is, is the same, and not everyone raised their kids the same way. And so, here in UK, I think so, Gabby, probably more as well in Ireland. Probably have something similar. When a mom gives a birth, obviously they have a nurse, or I believe so, is a nurse who actually observe the mom and help with the kid, with the newborn baby. And so what I'm thinking is, if in more country this is allowed for homeschooling, I'm sure probably they have to be completely different system, which will be having like support workers or people who've got, training in safeguarding, and following the safeguarding policies, just to make sure, like I said, not every family is the same. And so we know how they can be, this raise the awareness of parents who, can stop the kids from school for other reasons than homeschooling, and say them homeschooling the kids, if that makes sense. So I don't have much experience, but I know the safeguarding policies, especially around kids, are very important. And so I just want to bring that if this is possible in more countries, then maybe a new system could be established around this as well, because it's such an importance.
Oh yeah, I always kept myself in a parenting course, and the social services would put on a parenting course, and I took it. And there would be something on inclusion, and I took it. And my education didn't stop, but they'd say I'm learning about PRISM, or which is a sexual assault thing, and I've got that credential. I've got that credential for restorative justice. And they came to the house to check on, because at the time I was accused of just teaching them Bible, which we read the Bible, we did that, but we did a whole lot of other books too. We did. So when they come down to check, it wasn't, my kids were ahead in what they were doing in so many things. And I did not force them or try to make them. I just literally, like Montessori, if they are interested in something, if you want the kid to measure and they're interested in water, you give them measuring cups, and you give them a way to play in that water till they realize their fractions, till they realize and then you give them a book on what water is and how it can be used.
Okay, I think Sharon just froze. Sarah, do you want to jump in?
Than school has, but they
Oh,
have.
sorry, Sharon, you just spoke up for all of us.
Oh,
yeah.
It just says my internet's unstable. Well, anyway, you keep on adding to their passion another step to let them continue it, and they teach. You don't have to teach a kid. They are just so curious. They can fix their own pool. My daughter was on a CBC thing about homeschooling, and she got on there, and the guy says, well, what are you doing? She says, I'm digging holes for posts, for putting in fences for my horses. And he says, and this is going to make you a living. And she said, yes. She's a landscape person. She landscapes, she gardens, she has a tractor, she runs all the heavy equipment, and she does this, but she did it by digging poles. And he was saying, well, in a few years, we'll check back and see if digging poles is giving you any education. She knows what grasses to put down to grow for golf courses. She knows what temperature zones are, what the traditional and heritage crops are, but nobody taught her. We just let her,
So she learned through experience.
And it's basically, it's very similar to Montessori, only it's huge. And they couldn't nail us because every time I read their outcomes, I took from what they were learning and made it their outcome. We work backwards, just like those environmental impact studies. As long as you know something will pass, you work back from what will pass, and every environmental impact study will work.
Yeah. Let's hear from Sarah, because she's homeschooling at the moment, and she always comes from a lovely perspective of being actually a teenager. So Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. I thought about you guys said when parents want to homeschool, but when you think about it, when children want to homeschool, because I mean, I know a couple of families where actually the parents were the people who want to homeschool, but the kids loved it in school. So being aware of that what you want might not be aligned with what your child wants, because there are kids who want to be in school, who like it there, and if your kid is someone who likes it in school, then you have to be okay with that. So yeah, I just thought about that.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It comes back what we said before, and to understand your children first of all. Yeah, Matt?
To build upon that, so that's actually what we did as with our youngest daughter. We wanted to homeschool her in the first grade 1. So, and she clearly showed us, no, she wants to go to school. And as a parent, then you have to say, okay, yeah, then go to school if you want that. And she's happy there, right? So she's absolutely fine in school. I don't know how that works in 5 years and 6 years when she then decides she wants to be homeschooled. Okay, then she can be homeschooled too. But listening to what the kid wants is very important. And I want to add something what Lucia said. So a common misconception is that when you make homeschooling like so legal, then everybody would do it. So all the families, nobody would go to school anymore. And it's funny because I did some calculations for Canada and for the US and for the UK. It's only 1 to 2% of the kids who are actually homeschooled. So in these countries where it is allowed. So the idea and what policymakers trying to sell us, that when we open that, then everybody would do it and nobody would go to school anymore. And then you have all the kids who have trouble at home, so they are getting abused and so on and so forth. I think that's absolutely not right, because parents who have problems with their kid are happy when they're gone. They want them in school. They don't want them at home. And the pandemic and the whole lockdown thing is proof for that. Like 85, 90% of parents were like, oh my God, I don't want my kid at home. I want it back in school because I can deal with it. And that would be, if you make it legal, it would be exactly the same.
Thank you very much, but that's actually a very good point. Takiti, yeah.
I'm in harmony with Sarah. That's one of the major, that is so essential when it comes to homeschooling, because if you got a kid that want to go to school, like I said, I homeschooled 3, and then I had one that did public schooling. It's so essential that you ask your children. Sarah, you are so correct. Because if you got a child that don't want to homeschool, but they're gonna sit there like this the whole time, and they're gonna watch TV because it's not entertaining to them. So you have to. And then I tried to homeschool. I said, "You want to homeschool?" She said, "No." I said, "You don't? No, don't ask me that again." She told me don't ask her. She was in 8th grade. She said, "Don't ask me again." So that is so essential that you ask those questions. And Matt, that is so, man, like, that's why I don't know, what do they have volunteers in your in the UK and out there in the Europe countries and stuff like that? Do they have volunteering to make it more accessible for the parents to be part of the children's education, being that they don't have it where you can homeschool?
The parents write and at the school gate. So it is actually the Secretary of Education said it like 6 years ago. In school, the kids are owned by the state, and they are not your kids anymore. He actually said that, a German Secretary of Education. That's the mindset.
Yeah, I have some people from my religious faith has been killed in Germany. So it's a lot of things going on there. So I understand that. But wow, that's got to be really complicated. That's why you really have to take it upon yourself to be at home when they come home. I would think that if you're there at home when they do come home, and you have to do the best you can when they're there, because wow, that's got to be really complicated. And like you said, I am going to add that to mine about what you said. Like, am I willing to move to another country for my children's education? That would be another point to add to that. So that's what I mean. We got to listen to these children. I don't know what y'all can do in y'all country for that, but that's some kind of way that maybe you all can do. I don't know, how do y'all do y'all government run down there, but it's got to be a way that you get to the government to help the change of the education system. You got to, I guess, whatever y'all could do for your country, and however these states can help, because maybe some people in the states can help. I don't know how the states could help the educational system in other countries. So let's connect and see how we can help these children, because this is a worldwide solution, not a problem, a solution.
Thank you very much, Takiti. We have only about 5 minutes left, so I would like to give Karen and Sarah the floor.
Thank you. I just have a question for the homeschooling experts, there is any disadvantages of being homeschooled? Because I'm hearing just all the good things, but there is any disadvantages that you might have found?
One of the things that came forward for a disadvantage for me is, so one, it's additional work for the parents. So it's just as there are resources that are available, but there's an expense. You have to go out and purchase books. You have to go out and find the curriculum. Even though the resources are there, it is a little bit of extra time and a little bit of extra care that needs to be taken. And then you've got the issue with socialization of, it's okay for me because my daughter was older, but for younger kids, you want that activities. And so within the area that I was in, they actually had, group events, sports. They had different activities where the kids that were homeschooled could come in and even play on teams, against other schools. So it was a very nice program that was available. But there's other programs that are also done. So it's an opportunity of connecting with other people. What I found is that your biases, your beliefs, I mean, we all want our kids to do well. It creates another little layer of boundary. I had to quit being the teacher, and I actually hired somebody to be the instructor. So I just paid somebody like a babysitter, but she would administer the test. She would go through the lesson plans. Even though my child was self-studying, to be held accountable, there was a layer of expectation there. So yeah, there are some negatives, but there's also positives as well, like anything else.
My kids gave me old particular, and like different times they'd want to go to school, so I'd let them go to school. Then they'd want to come home, so I'd let them come home. And then like later, I've had one kid that's never gone to school at all, but she owns a couple businesses, and she keeps on getting compared to her classmates, because we're all on this little island, who have gone to school, and they keep on saying, come to our reunion. We don't care that you didn't graduate with us. We don't care that you didn't go to our graduation or our stuff through with us, because we're all hanging out every time we got a chance with you. But no, there was lots of fights and lots of setting out things up. And with 7 kids, we didn't have the money. So the things that were available were things like the library. We really worked hard to get a library, and to volunteer at the hospital, and to tend somebody else's horse before she got her own, and just different things that we had to look for a lot of, and then for me to work too. So basically I worked a week on, a week off, and we worked it out that they would be their grandmother here, or somebody kind of holding down the fort, but the kids would go off and do their things. And we have a unique place here because it's just an island. We don't have bears, we don't have cougars, we don't have any of that stuff. And almost everybody is of some relation. And we established right off the bat that if my kids were somewhere where they weren't supposed to be, I'd be there too in a flash. And my kids might not be in trouble, but the adults that helped them would be in trouble. And so, yeah, I think we're so your environment, your physical environment was a lot. But we had I think 3 families that were homeschooling at the time, and my main thing is we're a place where they come to study oceanography, marine biology, and that sort of thing. So I opened my kitchen up, so in the evenings these universities from Duke University and Guelph and places would come and have coffee, so my kids could hear these kids ahead of them do things and ask things, and that they were still learning. And the major thing I've taught my kids, and I keep on telling my kids, and I tell my grandson now, I don't care what you learn. I just know that I want you to learn to be able to learn. Other than that, I don't care what you've learned, because
that's lovely. Yeah. Okay, let's give the floor to Sarah, because she's waiting a while and we have to finish up. Sorry, Sharon, we have only 3 minutes left.
From my perspective, homeschooling is a responsibility for me as well, not just for the parents, but for the student. It takes away the whole system. I mean, the teachers give you everything. You don't have to find anything, any information. You just get everything. So it is a lot of responsibility for the student. So, and if that student isn't up for that, and that's not something the student can do. It is difficult and hard to build yourself responsibility, and also being able to do everything yourself. It's what that means. So is the student able to do that? I mean, the parents are there to support them, but it's also about the student learning to be responsible for themselves. And there are a couple of students who just can't do it. They need that support more than others. And one thing I saw in the chat about reading books and the watching television. I mean, I think it depends on how, from my perspective, how you take that knowledge. I mean, there's the same amount of knowledge that is in books is also in television. Just maybe it's sometimes bad, but you also can learn from bad knowledge. So I don't really think it's bad for kids to watch television if they know, if they are aware of what is being said and what is being taught. Because I've learned a lot from television or from movies, because the experiences they had were able to get rid of experiences of bad experience I could have had, because I've already learned them through movies. So I think it's same if you can learn from that. Yeah.
That's lovely, Sarah. So in other words, kind of engaging your critical mind in your questioning skills when you watch something and see something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Super. It's the top of the hour. I love this discussion, and I'm sure we could have gone on for another hour. But it is full of the top of the hour. So unfortunately, we have to finish here. And I give back to Stephen to introduce Marcella to us.
So thank you so much. And I just I'm going to take a moment, and we've been at this for a little while, so we're kind of shifting gears. We're shifting into a little bit more fun. We're bringing in a host that she hosts the Social Sundays, the speaking games every Sunday. And she's just recently launched her website and her brand. And it's very nice to have Marcella join us to lead this event. But everybody, if you want to just take a stretch, we've been doing this for about 5 hours now, 5.5 hours. And we started about half an hour early, but 5 hours for the most of you. So let's take a break. Let's take just a deep breath and enjoy. All right, Marcella, I'm going to turn this over to you, and we will start with your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here. So I am Marcella Onyx. I am a life, love, and intimacy expert. I help people to feel happy in life, relationships, and intimacy. I'm also an author, a spiritual artist, medium, a teacher, and there is more. So do visit my website, marcellaonyx.com, for you be able to find out more information. So today, Global Summit event, it's about education. And I'm also a mother of 2 amazing teenagers, but I have not given birth to them. I came into their lives when they was 1.5 and 3.5 years old. I met their father 2 months after he had lost his first wife in 2008. And we fell in love, and it's a beautiful soulmate love story that started 14 years ago, and it still continues even after he had suddenly and unexpected pass away over 2 years ago. But this is another story that I may turn into a book one day. Mom is also who raised us. My children are just like me in a way that we both had two birth moms, and I also have the mom that have raised me. So for them, and I absolutely love my mom. But who knows, my children always gives them compliment because they're extremely polite, intelligent, and have a beautiful heart. And we have been through a lot as a family and had challenges like everyone faces, including the need to deal with grief. The love and bond that we have as a family, always looking and caring for each other and making each other a priority, is one of the things that keeps us stronger. I felt it was relevant to share a bit of my personal story to inspire you. And if there is anything that you can take from my story, is that the best way to learn, it is through love. But now it's time to connect, and it's time to start this social event. Laughter is timeless. Imagination has no age, and dreams are forever. Well, this is the famous quote from Walt Disney. And this presentation that I'm going to share shortly is about cartoons. And the last event was very much about homeschooling, and someone was mentioning about there is lots of value in things that we can watch from our TV show, and cartoons definitely is one of them. Cartoons are full of positive life messages, and we as parents have to recognize it and show our children how to understand such stories, especially when the kids are still too young to realize their meaning. Also, it's a very good idea to watch cartoons together. This will help the entire family to bond and become closer than before. I love to show my children cartoons that I have grown up watching, and some of them we will be seeing very shortly. The cartoons can aid young children to learn new sounds, shapes, colors, develop logic and reasoning ability, visual and auditory processing. They also get in contact with music in such a different way. Watching cartoons can inspire our kids to dance, and even us. It encourages children, imagination, creativity, in a language that only is known to them. How many of you have not noticed that your children may have had an imaginary friend? I definitely have noticed with mine, and it was so amazing watching them playing. So they can also learn foreign language, for example. What you can do is let them talk about their favorite heroes. Share who was your favorite heroes, who still are your favorite heroes. Help them to draw the cartoons characters. Find a bright out from your time. Always try to put a little bit more of creativity in what you can do together. This is the best way to connect with our children. And this is exactly what Peter Pan has taught us. Adults who love to watch cartoons are just looking for a quick escape from the hard reality of the times. And watching cartoon can help us adults to revisit our childhood and nurture our inner child, reflecting a strong belief in simplicity and innocence. Some cartoons have taught us some life lessons like Mr. Bean. Love yourself because you are the one that will be there for you your entire life. Timon and Pumbaa, they taught us that worry does not solve problems. SpongeBob SquarePants, yes, he taught us that with imagination, you can be anything you want. So now I would like to invite you to please share this space with me. I'm going to share my screen, and I would love you to be able to unmute yourself because this is a social and connection event. Here we go, because everybody can see my screen. Fantastic. So please unmute yourself. And if you can, just put your camera on. Thank you so much. And let's see if this presentation will start. 1 second. Here we go. So the first slide, we have a dog. And I know this event is about cartoon. But if we look to the dog and if we look to what's happening here, yes, this is about reminding ourselves that it's okay not to be perfect. And why it's important we start with exactly this slide, because I just want to remind you that when you was a child or when you are raising your child, as much mess as they do, you just think is beautiful, is perfect, is fantastic. Yeah, everything is amazing. So just remember that it's okay to be messy. It's okay not to be perfect. Be gentle and be kind with yourself. Raising a children, it can be a challenge. But as I said before, when you can connect with that beautiful energy of love, that's when the magic happens. So the next one is a real cartoon dog. So please do unmute yourselves and let me know if you remember the name of this cartoon and what sort of memories it would bring to you.
Courage, wait a minute, Courage the Cowardly Lion, dog.
Yes.
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Cowardly
Right.
dog. Well done. Yes. So sometimes you have to conquer your fears. Fear is not a bad thing. And you do whatever you can to help people that you love. These are some of the lessons that we can learn from this cartoon. Does anyone else have any that they would like to share? Anyone else remember to have grown up watching this cartoon? I still watch at the Cartoon Network. It still shows here. The next one. Okay. Who remember this one? It's a very famous one from Disney.
Lilo and Stitch.
Yes, Lilo and Stitch. Is there any lesson that you remember? There was one specific and very important message. Does anyone remember if you have watched this one? As long as you are surrounded yourself from people that you love and care for you, you always find your place. What a beautiful lesson to learn. This one is a little bit more easy. Come on, everyone. You're supposed to be enjoying yourself, participating, and having fun. Come on, you're not a child, that's feeling shy, you're not sure what to say. Come on, you all grow up now. It's time to just have fun and remember your childhood. So, anyone would like to share any memory, anything that
I know it's Winnie the
Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, wow, it's so nice to hear more voices. Well done. Don't be shy. Yes, Winnie the Pooh.
And Tigger too.
Yes.
I used to love that cartoon when I was a kid.
Fantastic. And a part of the honey, is there anything else that you remember about the cartoon?
The little pork was always kind, and the donkey was sometimes committed mistakes, but Winnie the Pooh was always there, like cheering them up and trying to find a solution to any problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think the donkey was actually a sign of depression, like what depression acts like.
Yeah.
Because there was something where there was a little, I didn't see it in the cartoons because I don't watch TV, but anyway, one of the things came up on Facebook and it said, "How was your day?" And he said, "I'm sad." And the guy said, "Okay, I'll sit with you as long as you're being sad. I'll be sad with you too." And
Yes.
basically you didn't have to have a great time with somebody. You just had to spend time with somebody.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well done. Yes. And sometimes the smallest thing take up the most room in your heart.
Yeah.
Well done. Amazing. Next one.
Say one thing, Marcella, about that one before. Wait, go ahead. Don't worry about it. That's okay.
Okay, well, it was Winnie the Pooh. So if you want to share anything else.
I was in love. Most people loved Winnie the Pooh. I was in love with Tigger. I was really, his spirit was always so exciting and bouncing around, and that's exactly what I did.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. How about this one? There's lots of characters here. You may have your favorite one if you remember their name.
I was told this was too violent.
Well, someone had that perception, you know, it's just someone's opinion. Bless you. So
Yes.
we have Looney Tunes, which one of the things that we can, you know, let's say that we can remember is thinking out of the box. Sometimes life, it's not fair.
You just got to get up and go, and you eventually win in the end.
Yes, well done. Anyone has any other memory you'd like to share about this one?
I always love the rooster. So there's a couple of them there. There's a quick draw on the back, and then I see the chipmunks, and then you've got I don't remember the dog in the back, but I think he was in a lot of the ones with the cat. But my favorite was always the rooster. He was the best.
Yeah.
Beep, beep.
Beep, beep. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, let's move on. And how about this one? What is the name of the cartoon?
Snoopy.
Peanuts. Peanuts. Charlie Brown, but Peanuts is the name of the cartoon.
Yeah, Charlie Brown, Snoopy Show. So, any lessons that anyone would like to share, or do you remember the name of the characters?
We got Lucy, Charlie Brown, Linus, Schroeder, Peppermint Patty, Pigpen, Woodstock, and Snoopy, right? Is there?
Sally, Peppermint, yeah, Violet, yeah, Franklin, and they also had Fifi the dog. And Charlie Brown, you know, with watching the cartoon, they would have taught us about know your values.
I think I got "you're enough" from it. You
Yeah.
are enough. It didn't matter who you were. You were enough at who you were.
Yeah, something that I also got is it's okay if you don't get a joke.
What I think is interesting, since we're having the education summit, is the way that the teachers always spoke on the phone. They would always do the noise. Wah, 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 wah.
Absolutely. Okay, we do have loads more. So, what's your favorite superhero? Does anyone like to dress up?
My favorite was Wonder Woman, but I never dressed up like her.
Oh,
I always wanted a Batmobile.
the Batmobile. Wow, yes. Yes, I know. It is. I love the Flash. I love Superman. Yeah, of course, Wonder Woman. Everybody loves Wonder Woman. Maybe. I love Green Lantern too. I love the green light. Anyone else? You're all very quiet. I can actually see you all thinking about those times when he was watching all of this.
They were very
Superman.
bad examples.
Superman was my
They were dangerous. You decided that if you tried enough, you could get your muscles built up, and if you try again. And I mean, jumping off roofs and yeah, they caused a lot of trouble.
It caused a lot of trouble.
People trying to grow up and be these people that.
Yeah. I imagine lots of kids, including mine, have jumped from sofa to beds,
And
trying to fly and be the superhero.
and their super strengths weren't their physical attributes or their magical ones. Their real winning ways were their perseverance and their responsibility and their care for their community.
Yes. Yeah, fight together or by itself and find solutions for the problems. Absolutely. Okay, how about this one? We talked about imaginary friends, so there might be a clue. Anyone knows the name?
I'm either too old or I wasn't very much into cartoons as a kid. I have no idea who they are.
Didn't you? Isn't it My Imaginary Friends? I mean, isn't that the name of it?
Indeed. It's the foster home for imaginary friends. So if you don't know this one, it means you're not going to know this one either. And since this is an education event, the name of this cartoon is actually called Super Why, which is, they have an innovative approach. They are for usually kids 3 to 6, okay? And they take them on a journey of a powerful and meaningful experience, encouraging kids to actively participate in each episode. It's very interacting. I do remember my kids, they used to watch Super Why too. Okay. Right, this one, anyone remember? My son said, this one is easy, Mom. Everyone will remember. Nope. Okay, so this is My Life as a Teenager Robot. Okay. A very easy one.
Star Wars.
Yes, it's Star Wars, indeed. And it's still a huge success. It's amazing how much money Star Wars still can make. The next one. That's a very, very, very easy one. And I was thinking, okay, so if we do have someone from Asia, for example, you would remember who's that cartoon character? Anyone? No? Okay, so that was Ben 10. I'm just conscious about the time, students. So I just would like to check with you how we're doing with time.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. Okay, so let me go back to share my screen. Okay. Here we go. Can everybody see Ben 10 back on the screen? Okay, let me start with this. Thank you. Okay, anyone? No.
Robin Hood and Friends. I don't know.
Oh my God, where you guys have been in your childhood? You haven't watched cartoons. Yes, these Teen Titans, and you can actually watch the adult version on the TV. I absolutely love. I have watched all of them. Okay, next. Anyone, especially Stephen, you from America? It must be something you have watched too.
That's.
I watched this in Brazil.
Sesame Street. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street?
No,
This one's Muppet Babies, or yeah, Muppet Babies.
Yes, it is Muppet Babies. Yes. Oops. Here we go. Geek Brain, what are we gonna do tonight? Ooh, the same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
Do you know we got a lot of those people?
I agree. I must agree with you, Sharon. Does anyone know the name of the cartoon?
Brain?
Ren and Stimpy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Pinky and Brain. Well, I'm not expecting anyone will remember this one then. Okay, gummy bears. Okay, they used to have a very powerful gummy juice that they would have and give them lots of power for the fight and transform and protect, their place. So the next one, another easy one.
Transformers.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Ninja Turtles.
Ninja
me?
Turtles. Yep, we got Ninja Turtles.
You know the names, Karen?
Las Tortugas Ninjas in Spanish.
Oh,
Gabby, I saw that you're going enthusiastic about this one. Do you remember the names?
one's a
They
painter.
were, they were
Otelo,
named. They were named after famous artists, famous painters.
Rafael, Otelo.
Yes, Raphael, Donatello, Leonardo.
Michelangelo, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I thought there was only one artist.
okay. How about this one?
DuckTales.
Indeed, everybody. would love-
DuckTales. Yeah, that's the only one I remember. Was the only
Here we
one.
go.
He
Yeah,
was so rich and so stingy, no?
indeed, such an amazing swimming pool.
I love that one. I love.
Little ponies. They
Do they
have
each have separate names? Because I do know My Little Ponies, but I didn't know that they were certain people or certain ponies. Or just a bunch, just a herd of horses.
There's an association of, I think it's young men that follow My Little Pony, and they're called bronies.
Oh, okay. Well, I know they
That's-
teach us about friendship, okay, and they literally just show us that when friends get together, you can solve any problem.
They're called what? Brogies?
Bronies, ponies, but bronies. It's something that I was educated on. I had never even knew that was a thing, but it's people that get together that follow My Little Pony. I actually didn't even know that My Little Pony was a cartoon.
Okay, so this one.
Ooh,
Ghostbusters.
Oh, thank you. This is a difficult one, but I thought it was very important.
Captain Planet and the Planeteers.
Here we go. We do have some on the nose, indeed. So they have talked to us about recycling, saving the environment.
Akriti, were you teaching the kids or were you watching the cartoons? I think in your homeschooling, you were watching the cartoons more than the kids.
Well, I don't know. Captain Planet was out when I was a kid. That's from the 70s.
True.
Okay, let's move on. Well,
We do.
Yes, indeed.
Scooby-Doo.
Any lessons learned from Scooby-Doo and the friends?
There's no
Yeah.
such thing as ghosts. They all made up.
And it's usually the guy at the motel or something like that.
Yeah.
The real monsters are humans?
The real
Yeah.
ghosts.
My son told me that.
The real ghosts are humans. That's what I learned from Scooby-Doo. There's no such thing as ghosts.
Indeed.
I mean, yeah.
Scooby-Doo and the Scooby Snacks, I think, were the first Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, that's yeah. Well, I don't know, because I don't know if it's between Charlie Brown and Scooby-Doo. Charlie Brown, Snoop, and then those are the Einsteins.
Yes, Little Einsteins.
Little
One of my
Einsteins.
favorites. You
Yeah.
can learn a lot watching Little Einstein. I do recommend for young children. Okay, how about this beautiful one?
Care Bears.
Care Bears. Oh, I got a Care Bear right there.
Yeah, I used to have a pinky one.
I got a Care Bear.
It's all about care and friendship and helping each other.
The Smurfs.
Smurfs.
Smurfs. What does Smurfs have taught us?
I don't know about them Smurfs, but it's a lot of girls in there. Only Smurfs I know about is Smurfette. I didn't know it was all them Smurfs. Where them come from?
Yes, we do. This one is from the latest movie that they have created from the Smurfs. But I believe you're right. I believe from the original cartoon, the one that would stand out would be Smurfette too. Yeah, that's all, folks. So I can stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much for being with me and for participation on this social event. Okay, thank you so much. And Stephen, I'm gonna hand over to you. Thank you for the invitation once again.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing that. It was fun. And so anybody that needs to take a break, feel free to, take a few moments, take a break, do what you need to do. We've got about 2 minutes. I'll leave the floor open. If anybody wants to stay, feel free to stay. But I am going to stop my camera for just a minute or two. But please take over.